It's an important piece of baseball history in America, not just in Chicago.
It was the turn of the century in Chicago. The sport of baseball was growing in popularity, and a former ball player by the name of Charles Comiskey had an idea.
In 1900 or thereabouts, Charles Comiskey decides to open his own team in Chicago, brings down the St. Paul Saints to become the Chicago White Stockings, and he puts them in the Southside Park at 39th and Princeton.
That site at 39th and Princeton had best been known for, of all things, cricket. A team called the Chicago Wanderers played there during the 1893 World's Fair. Needless to say, cricket and the South Side were not a perfect fit.
But what was the neighborhood like back then?
It was an industrial neighborhood. I mean, this is a classic back-of-the-yards neighborhood. This is where the stockyards were.
So you had a lot of these folks who were working in the packing houses who are the fans.
In 1901, the first official season of the American League, Comiskey's team, now known as the White Sox, was an instant hit. They finished 30 games over 500, won the pennant, and did so at a park that was truly massive. According to the Chicago Historical Society, the distance from home plate to the center field wall was 600 feet. The dimensions were so vast that not a single home run was hit at Southside Park for 2 consecutive years.
And certainly in the dead ball era, with over 500 feet of park to cover, you had to have outfielders who were fleet of foot, and if you were going to have any sort of power game, really it was doubles, triples, singles, stolen bases, that sort of thing.
Thanks to a grandstand built by Comiskey, the Sox averaged 2,600 fans a game during that first season. But sometimes, finding enough room could be a chore.
They didn't have seating out beyond the grandstand. There were no bleachers. When they got crowded, people literally sat on the grass along the foul line. And sometimes they would actually have to get up and move quickly so that players could make a catch.
And 5 years later, this quirky design at Southside Park would play a key role during a historic game. It was the 1906 World Series, the White Sox versus the Cubs, the first ever inter-city World Series.
That was huge. That was absolutely huge for the city. A lot of the city was focused on that.
The Sox led the series 3-2, and in Game 6 at Southside Park, a play involving Cubs outfielder Frank Wildfire Schulte would haunt the Cubs, a play that would be repeated on the north side 97 years later.
And leaping up, Alou cannot make the play.
Wildfire Schulte, Frank Schulte, who's the Cubs outfielder, right fielder, a hard smash is hit to him with a couple runners on base. He claims that he's interfered with by either a policeman or a young boy. It's reported in the local newspapers the next day.
He actually was kicked by someone from behind. The ball fell. The guy got a double out of it. A run scored. 2 more runs scored. The White Sox led 3-1 after the first inning.
The White Sox score enough runs to take the lead, and the White Sox easily win that 6th game. And away disappear the Cubs' first chance for a World Series victory.
Whatever happened to the policeman or the young boy?
No one knows. It's one of those stories you wonder if it's part urban legend, but it's certainly interesting now to talk about it in the wake of the 2003 National League Championship Series.
But today, Southside Park exists only in photographs, because the land is now occupied by apartment buildings. We're here where the entrance of the park used to be at 39th and Princeton, and if you look down the street, just a few blocks away from U.S. Cellular Field.
Comiskey wanted a bigger park, and he also he was an immense competitor. I mean, he wanted to make this team Chicago's team, and so in 1909 he contracted with Zachary Taylor Davis to design what he termed the baseball palace of the world.
As for the park left behind, most people don't even know about it, including the people who now live where it used to stand.
Did you even know that the White Sox used to play here where you live?
No, I didn't. This is the first time I ever really heard anything about it. I've been living here for, 10 years now. It's basically a monument, to know that you used to live somewhere where a stadium used to be, especially when something took place as important as a World Series. So this is this is surprising to me to know.
After the Sox moved out, the American Giants of the Negro Leagues played at Southside Park, which was later renamed Shorelings Park. But the history of this sacred ground and its connection with White Sox lore will always endure, a piece of the past from a bygone era. Chuck Garfien, Comcast Sportsman.